So I just moved out my old house that I was staying in for a year. I had to pay two deposits when I moved in, 24,000 pesos each. So at the time, that was about $1,200. Is that right? Yeah, about 1,200, 1,300 US dollars times two. So that's about $2,600. And I didn't get any of it back, y'all. Somebody posted in the comments, why didn't you get any of your deposits back? That's a lot of money. And yes, it is. It's a lot of money. And a lot of it had to do with me. So I got to bite it. I got to own it. I got to take responsibility for why I ain't getting my money back. And while I'm talking about this stuff, this is my new neighborhood. I'm just walking down. I live right over there on the other side. They're doing a lot of new construction. They're building up a lot of new subdivisions, a lot of new providers. And I'm just going to walk and talk about some of this stuff. Let me hop on this side of the street so I can show y'all this. Now, before I get into that, and I'm gonna explain why. Again, this is just a walking. I haven't done any of these videos. This is the provider. They come in all sizes, all shapes. Many times they have a building that wrap all the way around them and whatnot. And like in this example here, there is a gate where there's one car that can only go in one at a time. Remember, I was complaining about that the other day. I was like, if you live there and the visitor stops there and it takes the guard 5 minutes to get confirmation, you're gonna be sitting here backed up. Sometimes the cars will be backed up and you're just gonna be sitting there waiting on them to get authorization. So be mindful of that when you move into a subdivision where there's only a one-way street. Many providers that have two entrances, there'll be one lane for visitors and one lane for the residents, so that doesn't back up. But that doesn't appear to be the case. So anyhow, somebody, and I'm gonna tie this into why I lost my deposit. Another person asked, and I don't know if I said that already, why didn't you get your deposits back, man? That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to be giving up and losing. Did they just take your money? No, they didn't take my money. When you move into these places, the landlords, they will generally go through, clean that place up, hand it to you spotless. The rooms will be cleaned, the walls will be painted over, floors mopped, if clothes laundered, furniture cleaned up and repaired, all of that. And so it's essentially brand new. And this is another provider. Now this is a dirt road. This is another provider that goes all the way down. Like you can see here, this house here has solar panels, et cetera, et cetera. And this is some of the stuff that people be complaining about. Folks just throwing trash out here. Oftentimes you'll see this when you're visiting or passing through an area where they're doing new construction, like all that construction we just saw on the other side. For whatever reason, they just dump it. And then other people come behind them and dump it. I don't know if somebody, as they finish up the subdivision, other people will come by and pick it up, I'm assuming. But what's the eyesore is you live in this nice subdivision here, and when you get to the gate, you got to look at all that stuff on the ground. So that's one of the things that people complain about. I don't know why they just dump trash and why they leave it there for 6 months or 12 months at a time. I don't know, maybe somebody can chime in on that. But as I was saying, when you get a house, it's handed to you in excellent condition. And so you gotta hand it back in the same condition. Someone else asked, can you write into the contract when you give up these deposits that you'll get it back? Well, that's something that already comes standard in the contract, that you will get your deposit back provided you hand it back in the exact same manner that you received it in. So if you go in there, so if they come back 12 months later and the grass is brown, and they're gonna say, hey, this grass was green, it was pretty when I gave it to you, it ain't green now. So I gotta get somebody else to come back out here and plant some grass or put some grass down. That's what they do. You know what I mean? If you got handprints all on the wall, or the wall is brown just from natural wear. See, in the States, we have something that's a natural wear and tear. You know, if you live in an apartment and you've been in that apartment for 2 years, The carpets need to be changed out. It's considered natural wear and tear. You don't got to pay for that. The walls going to be repainted because it's natural wear and tear. There is no natural wear and tear here in Mexico. If them walls is brown and you've been living there for 2 or 3 years, no, you going to pay for that out of your deposit. So in my case, we had this doggone dog, man, damn dog, went out there, ate up all the lawn furniture. And they had an expensive lawn furniture set, you know what I mean? And so I was stressing about that. So I went out and found another lawn set, paid about $500-600 for the set. You know, it wasn't exactly the same set, but it was very close. Nice, very nice, very close, but the table was slightly smaller. The colors were slightly different. And of course, the landlord wanted what they had. They didn't want that. They wanted what they originally had. So guess what? It came out of my deposit. So since they took it out of my deposit, I took the lawn set with me. So now I have a new lawn set. Now I didn't have any intentions on buying, but hey, it actually made my place look better. So I came out on top on that. Here's some more providers that they're building. Like you say, you got these signs pointing everywhere. There's a sign here with somebody renting their house. There's a sign here with the subdivision that's coming up right next to across the street from ours. Like I say, they're doing some building all over the place. Here's another sign to rent a place. People here selling curtains and rugs, and another place here. Somebody here selling some land in this provider called Arbelia. So you got this. You got, like I say, this whole area is booming. This is still considered Concal. I'm sure if I walked further, or I might have stepped into Cholula at some point. But anyhow, so that was one thing. My other daughter, my youngest one, she hung posters all up in her room, posters and pictures all up on the walls with some type of tape. I don't know what she used. But of course, when she pulled the tape down, pulled the poster down when it was time to move, all the paint was peeling off the wall from where the tape was. So guess what happened? Got to pay for that. Now, labor here is not expensive. You get somebody to come paint your house, $15, $20 a day. So I know it wasn't expensive to get the walls painted. But you still, as a landlord, you got to factor in time you got to go through and get it done and wait for people to do it. And, you know, everything has a cost. So we lost money on that. Plus the area down on the kitchen, against the walls, some of the walls needed to be repainted. So of course that comes out of my deposit. Also, that dog done got up there, ate off the corner of one of the dressers upstairs, the closet walls. They had a dresser on it. He went up there and ate on the corner of one, and so guess what? Got to pay for that. So, like I said, I had a really great landlord. I had no complaints. You know what I mean? I think the other thing that we ran into, one thing, I damn sure ain't fooling around with no more dogs. That's for sure. You know what I mean? Don't mess with them dogs, y'all, because they going to get all, that took $2,400 out of my pocket. A lot of it. The other thing, I'm trying to explain why $2,400, how it could be justified to lose $2,400. So there, many times if there were issues in the house, the landlord would just tell us to fix it and deduct it out the rent for minor stuff. And so we always got approval on little things like, hey, this broke down. It's gonna cost about 500 pesos or 2,000 pesos. The water pump is broken down. They say it's gonna cost about, $150 US to get the part and to replace it, the label. She's like, all right, can you, if y'all don't mind, can you do that? Take it out the rent, blah, blah, blah. So one day the sprinkler system stopped working, and and the water was no longer able to go into the pool and all of that. And so Kim called one of the maintenance guys that we normally use for a lot of handyman work, and he came to check it out, and I wasn't home. He came to check it out. And so later on, I came home. He was still checking it out. And he was doing some other stuff, fixing toilets. I think we was always having issues with the toilets because the water here, the minerals in the water, it can mess up stuff. So we was always having toilet issues, plumbing issues, septic tank issues on a regular basis. The toilets was leaking, so they fill the septic tank up. And it's the first house where I had all these types of problems. And they lived in the United States, so and they had never lived in the house long term. So a lot of the stuff that we were dealing with was from the use. It was a family of 5, so we were using the house for the first time in the capacity that a family of 5 would. So we was always constantly calling her, and some stuff we would just do ourselves and just be done with it. Didn't want the headache. Just say like, okay, it's only gonna cost $20. Let's get it resolved. So anyhow, called the guy. I come home. He's out there in the ground, cutting pipes and cutting through stuff, and figured out what the problem was, and came back and was like, all right, I need to go get a part. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. How much is this gonna cost? And so he's like, about $275. We gotta change this out. We gotta change that out. I told Kim, like, man, I ain't paying for that. We need to call the landlord. That's for her to decide. She might not want to pay for it. So of course, we called the landlord. She was like, I'll just leave everything as it is. When I be, because the lease was about to end. She said, I'll be there in a month to take over the house. Just leave it. I'll get all this stuff fixed when I get there. So by that point, he had already cut the pipes and all of that stuff. So when the landlord showed up at the house, guess what? All they see is this big old tank that had been removed out of the ground, pipes cut. And so when their pool guy came to fix it, he's turning it and showing them all this water moving all over the place, saying, this is why it ain't worked, blah, blah, blah. He was like, so all the landlord is seeing, man, somebody cut my pipes. Y'all done tore my stuff up, blah, 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 blah. So we got to get somebody else to come fix it. And this is like another provider. We got to get somebody else to come fix it. And, so of course, that came out of my deposit. You know what I mean? So here's another provider. I never noticed that before, maybe because you go into here and watch, you'll see this car go through. He'll go in, I don't know if he lived there or he has a pass, but there's a gate on the other side. The gate will either open up or he will talk to the guard, and then the guard will call the owner and verify they have permission to be there. And that's how that works. So this is another provider over here, real nice and pretty. So again, when the landlord came, saw all that stuff, again, labor here is not that expensive. Parts are not that expensive. So I know it didn't cost a fortune, but it looks really bad, And like I say, she did it. They're from the States. They live in the States. And so when they seeing all this mess, plumbing all cut in half and all that stuff, naturally you're going to say, oh, I need to pay for that. And it looked really bad. But I know a job like that probably ain't cost no more than $300-400. I know the parts probably cost about $300. And then maybe another $100 in labor. Like I say, that's one of the things here. Labor is very, very cheap. So there was a few other things that just collectively, it's like, all right, I ain't gonna argue with you. I ain't gonna go back and forth with you. We did this, we did that. So, take the deposit. And if I requested an itemized list of all the stuff that was probably done, might not have been much money available. I probably might have gotten maybe $200 back, but it wasn't worth all the hassle because, like I say, at the end of the day, she was a good landlord, and I wasn't going to quibble over a couple of $100. Now, so that's how we lost our deposit. So now one thing that I learned from that is, like I say, oftentimes a lot of stuff that we repaired is out of our pocket just so we wouldn't annoy her. And then, like I say, it was little stuff, $20 here, $25 there, 15 here, $25, $30. You know, now knowing what I know now, moving forward into the next places, I ain't fixing nothing out of my pocket ever. You know, because again, when it comes time to return the place back, many times the landlord's gonna find reasons to keep the money. And so now, in our case, I believe the landlord had every right to keep the money. You know what I mean? But I did from other experiences, because the house prior to that, they were so picky over little things, it didn't make sense. Like, for example, we forgot to dust the ceiling fan. She came in and was like, oh, I got to get somebody to come clean the whole house. You know, y'all didn't dust the ceiling fans, and so I got to go hire somebody to come, just looking for stuff. That's when I learned about those plants. The plants in front of our house, they had died. It was like, well, you don't got no automated water sprinkler system. You know what I mean? I didn't move into this house to be standing outside in the heat to water your grass 7 days a week in the heat. So that came at my cost. You know, they got me on that. You know what I mean? And so she was just diming and diming and diming. It kind of gave me the impression that I can get some of my money back. But toward the end, I was like, man, this lady ain't gonna give me my money back. And so I had about a $400 power bill, and I was like, she ain't give me my money back. So I'm just gonna let her handle that power bill, you know, because the utilities stay in their name. And so of course she was ringing my phone trying to get that utility. And so of course when the utility came, I was like, I'm good, take it out of my deposit, because you have no intentions of giving me my deposits back anyway. Oh, well, no. So of course I ain't getting any money back. So, but she ate that. And so I wasn't too teed off about that. I think our power bill was like $500 or $600. So I was like, all right, you know, we gonna nickel and dime over this little petty things. Yeah, take it out my deposit. That's what the deposit's for. That's what we're gonna use it for. You know what I mean? So that was that. So again, all this stuff is written up in the contract. I'm gonna walk. You wanna walk back or keep on walking? Don't look like this. Now I know there's a few more subdivisions, because you see the signs there. Another sign there talking about there's a pet park. There's other providers up there, other neighborhoods up there. So I'm gonna hightail it back in my direction, head back home. It was just raining a moment ago, and it looked like the clouds over there are getting dark. I don't want to get caught up in the rain. Where'd that little list there? Right there. So, moral of the story, you return that house back in perfect condition if you expect to get a dime back. As one person mentioned, man, you might as well just factor that into the cost of doing business, or get real creative in how you negotiate how those deposits are going to be paid out. Can I use a deposit? Can I use one of the deposits toward my last month rent? You know, get creative. Get really, really creative in how you pay. Don't get too much in the street. There's some cars coming. So someone asked, are there extra fees or extra costs for living in Provadas? Yes, there are. Oftentimes they call them maintenance fees, which is basically equivalent of HOA fees. They're not that expensive. Like in the subdivision I was just in, which was really, they probably had the best amenities in any provider that I've been in. And I've been in a lot of them because I, show people houses. I help people find a place to live. So there's only been one other provider I've been in that topped the one that we were living in terms of amenities. Amenities meaning swimming pools, gymnasiums, courtyards, parks, multiple pools in the subdivisions, tennis courts, soccer fields, a little area that you can use and use for birthday parties, and or other events that you want to host. You got used to that. The weight gym, the gymnasium had all sorts of weights, exercise bicycles, aerobics gear. I mean, everything. It wasn't just one or two barbells or one or two bicycles. You know, they had a ton of stuff. So, and the cost for that was 1,500 pesos a month, which is about $75 a month. So you got a whole lot for that 75, and that seems to be a typical fee, anywhere from $50, 500 pesos a month, $25 a month, to $75 a month, to $100 a month. There was one that we went to, which was better than the one that we were living in. Like I said, there's only been one or two that were better. I believe their thing was like $300 or $400 a month, and it covered for the whole family. But they had restaurants on site, they had gymnasiums on site. They had in the gymnasiums there, they had staff that watch your children. You can order food. Somebody will bring it to you from the amenity section, and they had a little bar and grill. You can go there and get a drink. All of that. It was a very large community, and tons of amenities. People riding around in golf carts and stuff like that. So you got options. Somebody else asked about concrete walls. So they was asking about that shell of the house. You know, how it just, so you're saying it's just concrete. There's nothing that comes inside, just concrete all the way around. Yes. And he asked whether or not it was sheetrock, and why not? Well, we live in an environment, and I don't know if this is the case for other parts of Mexico, but we live near the ocean. So we got that heat and we got that water. And during hurricane season, you know, you get that wind and that salt water mixture in the air, which could cause a lot of damage. So all the houses here are built out of concrete, just like this wall you see. Many homes will be wrapped behind walls. Practically every home will have a wall, a privacy wall wrapped around it, made out of concrete. So one of the things you notice when you go to the beach, because all the houses are made of concrete, many of them houses have been here for 100, 200, 300 years. And guess what? The wind didn't blow it down. The hurricane didn't knock it over, because it's made out of concrete. Now, them stick homes that we have in the United States, what happens? Well, when the wind come or tornado come, they lift the roof off, it blow the whole house down because it's made out of sticks. Is that my phone? Hold on, y'all. Let me see what's going on. Hello?
Bueno, buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Es sobre la entrega de una cajonera.
Sí, sí.
Ya me encuentro lleno.
Casa 46.
Sí, yo le veo allá entonces.
Lo siento, mi español no es bueno.
¿Se encuentra en su domicilio?
Sí, mi domicilio, sí.
Ok, estoy yendo para allá.
Okay, gracias.
Dale.
Bye. And y'all can see my stuff all jacked up. I understood some of what he was saying. I couldn't repeat it back. Couldn't pull the words out. But anyhow, we figured it out. So the houses are made of concrete. If these houses were made using sheetrock, they ain't gonna last. Mold and mildew issue probably happen super fast. Termites, come on. I'm just paying attention in this traffic. There's no sidewalks on this stretch. But nah, sheetrock ain't gonna last. So makes me wonder why they don't do this in Florida, up and down the East Coast, many of the areas where it's hurricane prone. And these houses still standing after every hurricane. Ain't nothing happening to these buildings. These buildings are standing. And guess what happens when you got your house made out of concrete? It ain't gonna catch on fire. Now you lose your stuff on the inside of the house, your furniture, stuff like that, but your house ain't going nowhere. You know what I mean? Rarely do you see any fires out here. So I'll take this concrete any day, and this is why 100 years later, 200 years later, 300 years later, they done pass these houses down to their children and children and children, and don't have no mortgage, no rent, they don't have to pay for none of that because it was paid off 100 years ago probably. Well, made out of concrete. So you have a very good structured house. When I first got here 3 years ago, we was catching the tail end of a hurricane. It didn't come over the city directly, but we caught the strong winds. That house didn't move one bit. It didn't bulge, it didn't shake, it didn't nothing. Now, some folks had some window damage, but again, the structure itself, come out the street, the structure itself was not affected. So, those are some of the benefits. Hola, buenas tardes. So you don't have to, I'm just trying to read my notes, contract clause about deposits, maintenance, water. Now, again, you do have a lot of maintenance on these homes just because of the location of where we're at. Extreme heat, extreme moisture, humidity, salt water in the air. The rain, we do have a rainy season that lasts a few months. And so you gotta be mindful. You gotta treat stuff as it come about. So if you own a home, you're gonna have to be proactive in handling things that they come up, or handling them before they become an issue, before they come up, because it can get costly to fix things. You know, you don't want to let mold, you don't want the house to be sitting there. Like, you know, oftentimes somebody might go away on a trip for a month, and all, you know, in the States we'll close all the doors and the windows and all of that stuff. But here, if they did that, closed all the doors and all the windows for a month or two, they'd come back to a big problem. So oftentimes you'll see in many of these houses, they have windows throughout the house. Got them screened in. There's windows in all the bathrooms. There's windows in the laundry rooms, so that they can open up the windows to let air flow through, so as to not allow moisture to continue to build up and cause a problem. Now, like I say, that's a subdivision. It's a new provider that they're building across the street from where we live, and we're about to come up on my place shortly. But there's, like I say, there's building and growth everywhere. Now, you know, if somebody made a comment, you know, if you've been watching Cortez's videos for any amount of time, and if gaps on the door, under the door is your reason not to come, you know, you might want to go to other country. You might want to go visit somewhere else. This is normal stuff here. It's not normal to us. But it's a normal thing here. I know when we lived in Colombia, all right, so they got a little hair care bar here. Buenas tardes. Laundry mat here. Look like they building a new gym right here on the corner. So this is on the corner of the street we live on. But this is the subdivision they building. They call it Mana. Like they're gonna have 48 units there, a mixture of houses and apartments, et cetera, et cetera. Look like it's gonna be a pretty. Hola, ¿cómo estás? They see me filming this thing. They say hola. So this is and down here on the street, on the corner of the 7-Eleven, and they got another plaza that they're building down here on the corner. So look like they're gonna have quite a bit of stores and shopping options out here. So this is the street that we live on. So there's a couple of empty lots. A couple of empty lots here. And that's why you see a lot of the trees and grass just kind of unkept. And this house here is for sale. It was actually a nice house. I got a chance to look at it. One level home. Blah, blah, blah. That's our house right here with the little car here. And they're building another one. Like I say, this here, empty lot. And as they build this house up, there's a couple of more lots down here. Now, when we lived in Colombia, every culture, every country, they're gonna have their own thing. And you have to learn to adapt regardless of where you go. Plain and simple, it's gonna be different. In Colombia, we ain't necessarily have gaps under the door, at least where we live, but when we lived there, there's a lot of apartments in Colombia. This one here is for sale. Again, another empty lot. And at some point, all these lots will be filled up and houses will be on all of these lots. So when we went to Colombia, there's, most of the people live in apartments. Overwhelming number of people live in apartments. And so what you find when you live in an apartment, they had these vents in your hallway. So all your neighbors had vents. So you could be sitting down watching TV, and because they had them vents in the wall, man, you hear everybody next door. You hear their whole conversation. You hear them peeing in the toilet. And it was the strangest thing. And so oftentimes, and Colombians, man, they loud. they some loud. They loud. You think Mexicans are loud? No, Colombians got everybody beat. They loud. And so it wasn't unusual at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. They'd be watching TV, they'd be eating dinner, they might be having a birthday party, they might have family and friends over, and you hear all that noise. And there was nights we couldn't sleep because it was so loud. And we asking, like, is this normal? Why do we have all these vents? Why, we can, and then, you might be in an apartment building that might be 12 floors up, and all of them houses got vents. So the guy that's on the third floor, his music blasting, and you hear it up on the 7th floor. You know what I mean? Like I say, you gonna deal with different issues in different places. I'll take these gaps in the door. This is nice. I'll take these gaps in the door over them damn vents any day. And like I say, Colombia is different. So the living conditions is drastically different from place to place based on where you go. So you just gotta kind of pick your poison and ask yourself what you can deal with. And you think about all the other immigrants that come from other countries, come from where they come from. And when they move to the United States for the first time, they're dealing with things completely foreign to them. They might come and they be like, why y'all have y'all water heater inside the house? You know what I mean? I'm trying to think of some of the most obvious things. They might be like, why is your gas pilot in your stove and your oven, you know what I'm saying? Why is that burning 24/7? They don't burn their stuff 24/7. And when you break it down, it's like, that makes sense. Why is my oven pilot running? That's burning gas. It's costing you money. They don't waste a dime. They don't waste a penny letting that. I mean, like, go think about it. You go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, wake up at 6 in the morning. That pilot in your oven and stove, in the water, hot water heater is running. That's costing money. That's like saying, hey, I'm gonna turn my car on before I go to bed and leave it running overnight, so that way when I jump in the car in the morning, it's already on. I don't gotta turn it on. I can jump in my car and hit the gas. Well, here, they're gonna turn that pilot on when they get ready to take 10, 15 minutes before it's time to take a shower, so it can heat the water up, because they ain't trying to burn no gas. And so I've been trying to adopt some of those principles. You know, Kim get mad because she's like, man, everybody got time to be running out there outside in that little service area and turning that pilot on. Then I got to wait 10, 15 minutes. And so for me, I'm like, well, because they'll turn their whole water heater off, so it's not sucking up electricity. You know, so I'm like, well, we gonna see how this first electric bill come out, and we gonna adapt, because my goal is not to be spending no more than $300 every 2 months on electricity. I want to get it lower than that, but 300 is just my number. It's my line in the sand. You know what I'm saying? It's my line in the sand. You know what I mean? So it's different all over the place. Like I say, here, deposits, most of them, man, you ain't gonna get them damn deposits back. You might get them back every now and again, but they don't have no thing called escrow, where they put it in an interest-free checking account and let it sit and give it back to you when it's time. No, many times these folks, they use that money to get the place cleaned up before you move in. Many times they're using that money to get by and live. I ain't saying it's right. I'm just saying that's why it's important, if you can try and figure out a way to negotiate that second deposit, hey, it's in your best interest to try and do that. And so when I'm working with clients, we try and figure some option out to make it happen. It don't happen all the time, but it happens. We get lucky from time to time. We might make it up on the lawyer's fee that they charge you. Sometimes the lawyer's fee, the contract fee, typically anywhere from 3,000, 6,000 pesos. Sometimes they'll try and get you for a whole month. But generally try and negotiate that, cut that down even more, and just reminding them, hey, look, man, we paying these 2 deposits, man. Work with us on that. Work with us. Come on, help us out. You know what I mean? So, and again, factor that into your costs. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm still winning. You know, like I say, I had to buy my own cabinets, bought my own air conditioners, but one of the things I was gonna be doing this time around was gonna go get me a nice office space down in the city, down in the Alta Brisa area. But because I found this place and I had that extra space, I can use that. I don't have to go get no office space. So for me, you know, paying for the air conditioning unit that belong to me, that'll be mine. And many times you can turn around and sell it back to the owner before you leave if you choose to. But now I'm taking mine with me, because like I say, the next house is gonna be mine. And putting some cabinets up, for me it was like, I'm gonna spend all that and more, paying for office space, paying for more electricity in the office place, paying for water in the office place, paying for another internet line in the office place, telephone line. So I ain't had to do none of that. So financially, no matter why it's important to know what your goals are, know what the plan is, and all of that. Hold on, my phone ringing. Hold on. Hello?
Bueno, ya me encuentro aquí afuera de su domicilio.
Ubicación?
Sí, en la ubicación.
Sí. Bello. Okay, I see you. Okay, gracias. All right, y'all. I just ordered a dresser and found it on Facebook, and I paid 40 pesos for delivery. That's $2 for him to come out and drop this dresser. Oh Lord, he's by himself. I don't got the strength to be carrying that thing upstairs. All right, so let me get off this thing. Hola, buenas tardes. Un momento, mire. Gracias.